Hi, my name is Terry and welcome. This week's episode is. Hi, my name is Terry Westwell and welcome back to Panic at the Book Club. Need to film this episode. Hi, my name is Terry Westwell and welcome back to Panic at the Book Club. Hi, my name is Terry Westwell and welcome back to Panic at the Book Club. This week's episode is brought to you by my hiccups because I've done everything I can possibly think of to get rid of them. So if you do have any recommendations, then please let me know below because I have tried everything. I've postponed filming this for as long as I possibly can. So now we're just going to have to put up with whatever happens. This week we'll be discussing The Maid by Nita Prose. It's the same as usual. If you haven't read that yet, I would suggest going doing that first because there'll definitely be spoilers. And if you do enjoy the episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe. The Maid is about a young woman who struggles to interpret the world around her. Her grandmother, who recently passed away, would help her to understand and would also come up with simple rules for Molly to live by. You know, like ones we had all heard before, like treat others how you wish to be treated and stuff like that. One day when Molly the maid is at work, she enters one of the hotel suites to find the whole room in a complete disarray and to find the infamous and incredibly wealthy Mr. Black dead on his bed. And it rhymes. As Molly becomes the lead suspect in the case, she begins to put all of the pieces together and discovers who her real, true friends really are. The book was written really well, and I think it really explored a lot of characters without making them seem two-dimensional, and it really explored the emotions and thoughts of someone who isn't neurotypical. It was really easy to follow, and none of the characters were too complicated. It was mainly centered around the main character, Molly, and her thoughts and feelings. It was actually really interesting to have everything from Molly the maid's perspective. To be totally honest, when I picked up this book, I had absolutely zero knowledge as to what the book's about. I had no idea in what I was getting myself into. Which I think turned out to be a really interesting way to go around reading this book, not understanding or knowing anything about the book, just because of how the main character was written. I believe Molly is on the autistic spectrum, and in all honesty, when I initially started reading this book, I thought that she might be a bit of a psychopath with how it was written, just because like she couldn't understand certain emotions. Like she couldn't understand why her job might not expect her to be in work after her gran died because, well, she's not the one who died. And I just thought that was really strange behaviour. But as you learn about Molly, you begin to understand that yes, she's autistic and she just feels things and views things very differently to someone who might be neurotypical. She was still very much grieving. She was just grieving in a different way. After reading this book, I did see a few reviews and comments, and for the most part, they were really mixed. Like, people did seem to either love it or hate it. Like, some of the negative comments didn't like how Molly was written. You kind of felt that she was kind of written dumb and it didn't really fit with someone on the spectrum, and also had issues with someone who may have been neurotypical writing about someone who was on the spectrum. I have absolutely no clue if the author is autistic or if she is neurotypical. And to be totally honest, I don't see the problem. I might be wrong, but I thought it was done in a really tasteful way. And I also thought it was really nice to read a book in the perspective of someone who may not think in a neurotypical way. I think it was really interesting to see some of the challenges that they may face, and I just think it was a really interesting perspective. I also think that the people who wrote these comments forgot that autism isn't the same for everyone. You know, it is a spectrum, and people might present in different ways. There are a lot of autistic people who can struggle with the way that people talk and also take things extremely literal, but at the same time, they can be extremely perceptive and have an amazing eye for detail and memory for detail. Some of the people who wrote these comments may have missed the point, some of the points that the book was trying to make. You know, it explores the fact that some people in Molly's life might presume she's dumb just because of the way she is, when in fact she's not. And the people who try and take advantage of that end up getting exactly what's coming to them in the end. Yeah, I really struggled at the start with the way that Molly was written, but after a while I really settled into it. I think it was actually really important that the book was in first person so that you could actually learn the way that she thinks and the thought process behind stuff. Even while Molly was staying positive and counting her blessings every night, no matter how positive she was, I couldn't help but feel bad for her. I did think that at some point the book was going to help find justice for the Fabergé going missing, but in a way I'm also really glad that it didn't. I think it probably wouldn't have made much sense. She probably should have gone to the police when she found out that the Fabergé, the money had been stolen, but at the same time, I really understand why she didn't. You know, her gran was sick, and she obviously didn't want to add on to those problems. And I think she probably felt a little bit ashamed as well for letting that happen, for that to have happened to her, even though it wasn't her fault. And in a way, I kind of think that this story was kind of like history repeating itself. Apart from this time, when someone took advantage of it, she finally got her payback and she finally got closure. Yeah, she thought Rodney was her friend. Felt so bad reading along when she thought that she was on a date with him and she thought something special was happening, when in fact it may have been quite obvious to the reader that he was just taking her advantage of her for information or whatever, and she thought it was something a lot more. Knowing the affection that she had towards him, but knowing that I don't think that was, reciprocated. I don't think he felt the same way. I knew that he was sketchy. I didn't realise just how sketchy. She has terrible taste in men. Giselle turned out to be quite a good friend. She took Molly's advice and even sent her a gift. I mean, I would like a friend who would send me 10k. Although I'm not quite sure I'd want to be accused of murder. I'm not really sure. Like, I was really confused as to why Molly didn't get help sooner from Mr. Rosso. Like, he seemed like a genuinely nice guy, and I think she knew that him and her gran was friends before. So I was just really confused as to why she didn't go to him sooner. Although maybe she was just, offended on behalf of Rodney because obviously Mr. Rosso, he didn't like Rodney, and I don't think she liked the fact that he didn't like Rodney. She was quite protective over him. I thought the ending for Molly and Juan Manuel was really sweet. I thought it was really nice that she finally found someone that she could connect with, and someone as well who appreciated that a tidy home is a tidy mind. But I was not prepared. I was not prepared for that ending. I do think the ending, the secret that Molly has with the first Mrs. Black, was extremely surprising. Like, I did get the feeling that Molly was probably still hiding something, but wow. I think her moral stance on cheats and bad eggs is apparently worse than her opinion on murder. Despite her very strong morals, she could understand why the first Mrs. Black killed Mr. Black. And clearly to her, it justified bending the truth in order to protect the first Mrs. Black. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Like, it did take me a while to get used to the writing and the character and how it all came together, but it was really interesting to read something from such a different perspective. Would I recommend this book? Absolutely. I think it was one of my favourite books so far this year. I think someone who wasn't reading this book so often probably wouldn't enjoy the book as much, because I do think that the character might throw you off a little bit more. Because I think someone who might have a little bit more time to read the book, say within a couple of weeks, I think would probably enjoy the book a lot more. They would be able to get stuck in and they'd be able to connect with that character a lot better. But on that note, please let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book? So next week we'll be discussing No One Saw a Thing by Andrea Mara. So don't forget to get your comments and thoughts in by Monday the 3rd of July latest so you can be a part of the discussion. You can do this either on YouTube, TikTok, or even on Instagram. The following week we'll be discussing It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Now don't forget, if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, I do now list the next 4 books down below with the discussion dates so you can choose which one best suits you. And if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.